Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and most of you have spoken and mentioned that you like the shorter videos by collection best, and I will do that for most of the other videos. But for the Kit Club videos, since they all go live on the same day and they sell out some of them very quickly, I am going to do all the Spellbinders Kit Clubs in one video per month. So in today's video, I have the Spellbinders Quick and Easy Card Kit of the month. I have the Spellbinders Small Die of the month, the Glimmer Kit of the month, the Embossing Folder of the month, 3D Embossing Folder of the month, and Stitching Die of the month. Now that's a lot of kit clubs, and I want to share at least one card per kit club. So we're going to move as quickly as I can through the cards, and I'll only do some step-by-step things where it makes sense, or maybe it's a little more difficult to see how you're supposed to use the supply. So let's jump right in and I'll share the new supplies along the way. So while I'm flipping through the Quick and Easy card kit, I did want to mention that the reason that I'm sharing this video on the 6th rather than the 1st is because new subscribers are allowed to subscribe to these kits between the 6th of the month and the 26th of the month. And if you do that, you will get this kit. So if you are only subscribed to one club and you want to try out another club, today is the day that they are open for you to subscribe to other clubs. If you're not subscribed to any clubs, this is also the day when you can start new subscriptions. So that's why I'm sharing these a little bit later in the month than I used to. As far as the Quick and Easy card kit, it has all of the embellishments, cardstock, pattern papers that you're used to seeing in these kits. There's also adhesive and A2 cards and envelopes, as well as sequins. These are all the die cuts that are included. You know there's a ton. This month they have the chipboard frames back, which I really love because they are a great basic element to start your cards with. So all of my Quick and Easy card kit cards are going to include those. I also love the chipboard stickers, a little bit of dimension, a little bit of color, sometimes a sentiment or an image. And these are these beautiful dimensional butterflies. So there's two pieces to them. There's the bottom piece that's the sticker, and then the top piece is the acetate with the wings that pops up. And these sequins are super, super gorgeous. Look at all that shine and the beautiful pink. For this first card, I'm using some of the dark blue cardstock in the back. Those cardstocks are all cut down to an A2 size. So then I cut my pattern paper down to 4 by 5 1/4. And like I mentioned, I'm going to be using those chipboard frames. They are self-adhesive, and I used a chipboard sticker for the sentiment. Now it's time to add some beautiful embellishments like these butterflies. I absolutely love them. So you place the bottom sticker down and then the wings pop up and it's all acetate and absolutely gorgeous. Lots of shine and dimension. I did add another die cut butterfly. I love all the butterflies in this kit, and they come in all the different colors that coordinate with the pattern papers and cardstocks and other elements in the kit. I did want to use some of the sequins just to add a little bit of shine. So I'm using an embellishment tool, and you can see there are really beautiful sequins, but also some little clay elements like little butterflies and little confetti bits. So lots of fun to add those as that last little bit of embellishment for your card. And again, quick and easy is the key here. So once again, I will have a piece of cardstock, pattern paper cut down to 4 by 5 1/4, a chipboard frame as kind of that focal element that will draw your eye to the center of the card, and then lots of little embellishments around it. So I have some chipboard stickers, some die cuts that I'm adhering down, and popping up with those dimensional foam adhesive squares, which I really love because they are small enough to sit behind tiny elements. Then again, just using some liquid glue to adhere some of those sequins. They really just add that nice touch of shine that you don't necessarily get from die cuts and chipboard stickers. Once again, I have a piece of cardstock from the kit, then a pattern paper cut to 4 by 5 1/4, and a frame. So you can see it kind of becomes an assembly line here. And that means that you're going to get a lot more cards done a lot quicker. So if you use the same basic premise on all of these cards, they will all come out looking differently because you have different colors, different elements, all those things. but your basic design idea has already been decided for you. So there's not a lot of having to think about where to place things if you use those frames as kind of your central piece of the card. This is the embossing folder of the month. You can see it's kind of a water element. I decided to sort of use them as leaves in the background. I'm using a white pigment ink pad and swiping it over the embossed cardstock. And that is going to really make those embossed parts really stand out, but still in a light, subtle way. So the white is absolutely beautiful on top of that light green cardstock, and it really just kind of draws your eye to those elements and makes them really pop off the background. I cut that down to 4 by 5 1/4 and matted it on some white cardstock. And I'm going back to my same design of the chipboard frame in the center and then some embellishments around it. So the chipboard frame already has designs in the bottom right-hand corner, which of course you could rotate and put anywhere you want. I have it in the right. So then I'm going to just use my other corners for other embellishments, like that cute little bird die cut and of course that beautiful layered butterfly. So that's all you need for a card like this. You don't need much more. This is the 3D embossing folder of the month, and I decided to go back to that white pigment ink pad to swipe along the top, and I think that really looks great on this blue cardstock as well. So I have a feeling that no matter what color of cardstock uses the base, a white pigment ink pad is going to look beautiful on the embossing. Just make sure you let it dry because that pigment ink does stay wet for a long time. Okay, now I'm using a different type of frame. It is this double frame, which I'm actually going to cover up the bottom with some die cuts. I loved these die cuts, but I wasn't sure how I was going to use them, and I decided to just go with it and put them where I wanted them and add a few other little chipboard stickers just to add a little bit more interest to the card. This is the small die of the month, and if you're familiar with Spellbinders dancing dies, this is one of those. So there are several layers to cut out, and it is an octopus, and I'll show you how to put it together in a little bit. Basically, you're going to put one layer on top of the other to create the layered octopus, and there are other layered elements like this little sign and starfish, and these little jellyfish can dance as well. So there's a layered top to the jellyfish, and then it will go over the dancing tentacles that hang down. Decided to use that 3D embossing folder of the month once again, and I started with some really dark ink, some Distress Oxide ink and chipped sapphire. I didn't love it, so I went over it with some tumbled glass, and that made me much happier. I like that it toned down that really dark ink and definitely helped the elements in the embossing stand out. I cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4 and matted it on some of the dark blue cardstock in the kit. Now for the dancing, you place a foam square like this in the center of the circle that's open, and then you place the other element on top. So we have the bottom octopus legs and then the foam square, and the jellyfish is the same way. Put a tiny little foam square in the center of that circle and then put the top right on top. So the jellyfish top goes right on top of that foam square. And then you can see how the legs will kind of dance back and forth. Now for this card, because I did it on an embossed background, you're not going to get as much movement. And I wasn't thinking about that when I wanted that embossed background. I do like the way it looks, but you're going to definitely limit the mobility of the dancing with an embossed background. You want a flat, smooth background so that your legs will move back and forth much easier than they do there. This is the stitching die of the month, and you can see that there's a couple of layers that you can cut for the background, and those actually have lots of details of die cuts but don't need to be stitched. So I will cut the blue out of, this is actually cosmic blue. This is not the blue that's in the kit. So this is a color I absolutely love. I use it over and over again, and I know you've seen me use the gold mirror cardstock. So I'm placing the cosmic blue over the basic shape without the dies cut out of it and placing that on top so you see the gold coming through. These little shells can be placed around, and there's spots where you can see on the left, there's one shell that's open right now, that blue. You could leave it just like that. Or you can die cut some shells out, and this is where you would do your stitching if you wanted to. So you have a center hole at the bottom of the shell and then tiny holes at the top. And it's, like I always mention with the stitching die, large stitches. So it does not take that long at all to finish up these shells, and then you can just adhere them on top. Now I like to use a liquid adhesive. I used a little bit too much there, but that's okay. I'll save it for later on a piece of washi tape and place it right on top there. And the reason that I like to use liquid adhesive is because with all that bulk, it's hard to make them adhere. I did go back to the 3D embossing folder one more time for that alabaster piece of cardstock there that I'm using as sort of the focal point in the front of the card, and I decided to grab the starfish and the little sea kelp and then added a die cut that says always loved, and that was from the Quick and Easy card kit to complete this card. So not very difficult stitching at all. This is the Glimmer kit of the month. You see you get 2 Glimmer waves and a Glimmer sentiment, and then there are dies to cut out each of the waves. So you could just cut the top and have it be just the top of it, and then the bottom would be the card, or you could cut the bottom of it and you could have a shaped bottom to your card, or you can use both dies and cut the entire wave out. And that's what I'm going to do for my card. But first we need to foil our waves. So I have a Sky Bright piece of foil taped down to an A2 piece of white cardstock, and I'm heating up my Glimmer machine. Once it's all heated up, pull out the platform and lay that card with foil down with the foil side facing the Glimmer plate. And then I put my clear plates and shim on top and run it through my die cut machine. Then when I peel it back, you can see it's a perfectly foiled wave, and that's because the foil's not moving around because it's all taped down to the cardstock. Do the same thing with the next wave. So I'm just going to place that on top and then place my clear plates on top of that, run it through my die cut machine, peel off the tape, and you can see another perfectly foiled wave. Last but not least, I foiled the sentiment kind of in the center of the card. There is no die for the sentiment, so I'll probably just cut it into a sentiment square. Here are the dies, and like I mentioned, you can just do the top, you can just do the bottom. I'm doing both top and bottom on both foil plates so that I have 2 distinct waves cut out. And I'm adding a little bit of tumbled glass to this cardstock. Since the cardstock's white and the waves are absolutely beautiful with that foiling, I decided to add a little bit of inking so they wouldn't be just pure stark white. After ink blending them, I trimmed the width down to 5.5, and I'm adhering those down to an A2 horizontal card. And then again, I mentioned that I did cut the sentiment down into a rectangle. I matted it on some of that cosmic blue cardstock, and now I'll add a bunch of sequins, and they look like kind of the foam rolling through the ocean. They're so pretty, and they add that iridescence. So I'm not using any of the pink. I'm purposefully picking out the iridescent white colors just to add, again, that little element of shine and dimension on top of the beautifully foiled waves. As always, I'd love to hear what you have your eye on this month. Let me know in the comments below. YouTube thinks you might enjoy checking out this video next. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. The gaming teenager of the month, the Gimmer. That's a lot of kick.